Here's why I abandoned Sony for Blackmagic. I'd like to start by saying that I love Sony cameras. I think they're great. This is my A7S Mark II that I shot my feature film with, shot about 100 ads with, and all these short films. Great in low light, great autofocus, really solid camera. But as I'd shot so long with it, I was starting to notice that I wasn't able to get certain images that I could see other people getting. The gap was becoming a wee bit clear. It was starting to get a bit dated. They say, you know, gear doesn't matter, but it does when it comes to a certain point. This camera was about 10 years old by the time that I was deciding to upgrade. And the thing was, I was looking at was the Sony sort of colour wasn't really doing it for me, skin tones, and there wasn't a richness or a colour density that I could see with other cameras that I really was looking for at that point. And I was trying to push the business side and really compete with, you know, other people with better cameras. So I was looking to upgrade. Now the natural progression you would think would be, you've got an older Sony, go for a new Sony, stay in that ecosystem, go for an FX3, go for an FX6, the FX9, the Burano, the Venice. Now, why didn't I go for that? By the time I was due to get a new camera, I was looking at them, they're great cameras, the FX3 image quality is amazing, it still is, even though it's an older camera, but I was thinking if I'm going to invest all this money, the price hadn't come down that much, even though the cameras I just listed were all about 5, 6, 7 years old at that point. So I'm thinking not to get too in my head and think, oh, you need the latest and greatest stuff, but it's already old. If I'm going to put this money into it, I want something that's a bit fresher and has a solid background, but also can do new things and is kind of cutting edge, and it's going to basically give me value for money. So I started looking at other cameras, and Blackmagic I'd heard a good bit about, but I didn't have much experience. The only experience I had was when a friend came to borrow a gimbal and we tried to put it on and it was too wide to fit on the screw mount. So it wasn't a great first impression. But then also people kept saying, you know, Blackmagic colours, it's phenomenal. But it was a sort of outcast brand. It was Australian, wasn't a household name. People said it was an overheating camera, it would shut down, it wasn't reliable. It had a strange lens mount, you know, it wasn't just your typical sort of Sony or Canon. So I didn't know that much about it, but as I looked into it, the thing I was thinking was I want the best image quality possible. I was also looking to move from Premiere to DaVinci. Now, DaVinci owned by Blackmagic, so that would go hand in hand. When you bring in that footage, using B-RAW and getting the maximum use of the colour, it was 12-bit colour compared to like 8-bit that I was shooting on, and even 10-bit, that's what the FX3, it doesn't sound a lot, but it really gives you much more colour density and much more richness and a lot more to play with when you go to edit. That's what I was looking at. I was looking at when I'm going to shoot a feature, how's it going to be? So I started looking more and more into it, and there were criticisms of Blackmagic, the no image stabilisation, not great in low light, and rolling shutter that would kind of go wobbly if you had to pan too quickly, a kind of jelly effect on the footage. But the bottom line was, the thing I kept asking was, yes, but the image quality, how is that? And then every sort of answer was, for the price, it's phenomenal, it's very competitive with higher end cameras. I was looking at stylized versions of the footage. You know, I wasn't looking at tests, so to speak, where people are shooting against colour charts and testing chromatic aberration, all these things, as important as they are. I think that gives you a really clearer image about dynamic range and things like that. I really respect that, but for me, I was looking at short films, who's doing like cool ads with it. Let's see some hands-on experience. I want to see the footage when it's getting pushed to this way, or in this type of lighting, or in this type of movement, because that's how I'm going to be using it. I want to use it for feature, for ads, and getting the most out of the camera. I'm not going to be shooting at colour charts. And the more I kept seeing was, yes, image quality is phenomenal. So that's what made me eventually take the leap and go for it. Now, criticisms of the camera, let's talk about rolling shutter. Is that a problem? For me, no, because I'm not shooting racing, I'm not shooting very fast moving footage most of the time. I'll shoot gym classes and things like that. And even then, when I'm seeing the rolling shutter, it doesn't really stick out for me. Another criticism of the camera might be the low light capability. Okay, I shot on the Sony. To me, I'm looking to get better at cinematography, and I'm looking to move into narrative stuff, as I said. So for me, just to crank the ISO up to like 12,000 or 128,000 or however high Sony goes and gives you a clean image, to me that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see the quality of the image and try and compare it to working with film, having to add lights, seeing how that works when you do add lights. Because when you shoot that high ISO, yes, you'll get an exposure and you'll be able to see in the dark, this sort of night vision, but then like your lights here, lamps in the background, they'll be clipping, they'll look strange, it will all look a bit funky, and that's not really what I'm looking to do. As great as the cameras can be, and maybe if you're shooting concerts, you need that because you don't want to have this noisy footage. So that was on my mind. And then also other criticism of the camera, what would it be? You know, slow motion stuff. Again, it can go down to, I think it's like 50 frames a second, so you can get like half speed on 4K resolution on the Blackmagic, which was enough for me. And not being on the gimbal, again, I'd shot for years with the Sony on gimbal. I was looking to move more into narrative stuff when I'm using sort of slower like dolly tracks and using more controlled camera movements. Wasn't an issue for me. And again, all of these get trumped by the fact that the end footage was so good and it was so rich and it had so much like texture to it. That's all I was interested in. And I was going to go for the Pixels, and it's a sort of boxy format, but it's the exact same sensor as the camera I've got, but it was taking forever to come out, and the 6K film frame came down in price because the Pixels was coming out, even though it's the exact same footage. And I was waiting for that, and it's got a screen on the side rather than the back, and I thought I'm just going to go for this and then eventually upgrade to the Pixels 12K when that comes out. But again, there's other things about this camera that I just absolutely love. It's got this beautiful screen at the back, it's really large, it's bright. You can use false colour with the click of a button, checking exposure. You can also switch into higher frame rate modes, and just a click of a button. It's so easy to use, it's so intuitive, and it's just a beautiful camera to work with, and I'm delighted with my choice. But again, Sony, great cameras, but Blackmagic, you're the one for me.